This
Please take the charge.
conference will now be recorded.
Thank you.
Hey, Ryan, thank you. Thanks for introducing me. Hello and welcome all. Good to see you all guys join this particular webinar. I'm very happy and very excited to go through this webinar, and I hope I'll make you understand exactly what is SD-Access and why you need to join, or why SD-Access you need to learn at this time. So this webinar would actually go through a couple of points. Let me go through that points. So this is something that is for you to understand what is this webinar all about. So we will go through what is intent-based networking. Now, before going and jumping directly on Cisco SD-Access, based on my experience, I feel that you need to understand a little bit background about the SD-Access, where the SD-Access actually started its journey, not only in the Cisco world, but as a vendor neutral world, where exactly SDN started and how Cisco has taken SD or the SDN as technology and how they have implemented in different domain. So that's why we need to understand exactly what is intent-based networking. Then we would jump on why SD-Access. Then we would actually go through the challenges which are there in the traditional network and how it is going to resolve those challenges in SD-Access. And then we'll go through the certifications, for example, CCIE or any CCI discipline where you get SDA as a syllabus, a part of study. And then we would jump on why do you want to learn this, and then why do you want to join with us. So this is the agenda for this webinar. So we'll go through one by one point. So you guys have heard a lot of buzzwords nowadays being into the networking field. So say automation or SDN, or let's say Python programming or Linux, or you take Yang model, or for example Ansible, machine learning, telemetry, all these buzzwords you might have come across. And then you have intent-based networking. So when I started my journey into SDA, which is a couple of years back, like 3 years back, I started working on SDA. My first project, when I started working on, I was a bit hesitant and scared because my whole background was into the routing, switching, and wireless. Now, this is something new for me when I started my journey, and definitely it is new for anyone who actually starts journey in the SDN world. Because a lot of buzzwords you would come across as a part of SDA deployment. People talk about automation, people talk about Linux as an operating system, which has been used for controllers as a centralized device who manages the network devices. Then you have got machine learning coming in picture, telemetry as data analytics, and all these buzzwords. We'll go through intent-based networking. What is it exactly? So imagine, say you just put some desired state in your mind of your network infrastructure. You are a guy from business organization, and you think that your network should be like that. For example, your network should be your LMS should have a very good performance and HD video for the learning management system. That would be your business statement. But if you narrow down underneath the network infrastructure, there are many things which you need to implement. You would consider the policies, you would consider QoS, you would consider introducing new VLANs, building up the entire network design and implementing it. But when you talk about intent, in the layman language, it is a purpose. So that is a business intent, what you want to keep your desired state for the network. So what is intent-based networking? It's actually you wish something in your mind from the business perspective, and that gets implemented through automation or through certain frameworks which are open standard or customized frameworks. So let's go through that. So when I talk about IBN or intent-based networking, what most of the companies says, so what Cisco says is intent-based networking captures and translates business intent into the network policies that can be automated and applied across the network. That is nothing but network intuitive. So what Cisco is saying, the same what I have explained, like you are actually translating a business intent into actual network policies or actual configuration of network devices. Let's say what other company says. So Veriflow is the company which has got acquired by VMware, and they also are working into the intent-based networking. So they are also coming up with the same kind of statement, which is all about business intent. Like intent comes from the business objective or what business requires. It is why we need to do anything, continuous verification of network based on the intent. So if you compare these statements, the meaning of those statements are almost similar. They all are talking about business intent. How about Huawei? Huawei is talking about intent-driven network. But if you just see or go through this statement, it is again the same. It's all talking about what exactly network intelligence is and how do we automate the network so that we can achieve our business intent. Then let's consider another company called Glue Networks. The recent name, I mean, they have renamed the company name now. It is Gluewares. Earlier, it was Glue Network. They are also into the network automation, and they are also talking about IBM. Then Abstra say what Abstra says. Now Abstra is also into the network automation or intent-based networking system. This has been recently acquired by Juniper. There's a talk going on, and I think it is almost finalized. So Juniper has acquired this company. They are also talking about intent-based networking system, which is a closed-loop telemetry can streamline your data center network operation while dramatically reducing capex. So all are talking about intent-based networking, all are talking about automation, all are talking about how do we automate the entire infrastructure and reduce the human efforts or withstand with the current demands. So let's go to the next slide and understand about IBM model, which I had explained you. So this is something when I was going through one of the book called Transforming Campus Network to Intent-Based Networking. This was the diagram which I came across, and I kind of got convinced that whatever Cisco has developed as a SDA solution, it's the complete life cycle which is all about IBM. So if you consider on the right side of your diagram, which is quite simple to understand compared to the left side, uh, if you see from the top, those are the business people who are talking about intent, and that gets translated into network policies down to the activation. When it comes to the activation component, actually it gives those automations which actually configures the devices automatically underneath the physical infrastructure. And once it has been configured, the story is not ending there. You keep monitoring that through telemetry data, through assurance, and then you would actually come back to the translation and see whether whatever intent you have or the baseline of your desired outcome, is it been achieved or not? If it is not, then again you goes back to the activation and you optimize that network automatically. So it's kind of closed loop, which is a combination of AI and machine learning comes in picture on the centralized device, which talks about this particular intent-based networking lifecycle. So I hope you understand intent-based networking. Before jumping on SDN, because those are the two main areas which you need to understand before jumping on Cisco SDA. So if you have any question in between, you can interrupt me, you can ask any question, or you can put your question in the chat so that my partner Kisley can look into that and he can ask on behalf of you. So far, any question, guys? If not, I would move to the next slide. Now, this is a bit difficult to understand. If you just read or go through this statement, it's a physical separation of network control plane from the forwarding plane and where the control plane controls the several devices. It's kind of difficult to digest that, but this is the definition of SDN network. Let me make it little easy for you to understand what exactly it is. So, being into the networking field, you guys probably have gone through this uh, you know, the traditional way of understanding what are all planes are there into the network devices. For example, in router or switches, you got data plane, you got control plane, and you got management plane. Now, each plane has got its own role when it actually talks about traffic flow, right? So what is it? So data plane, for example, its architectural plane is in charge of forwarding the packet and all the frames at the appropriate outgoing port or outgoing interface. On a router, if you talk about data plane, that is responsible for taking a look at the IP packet and saying, this is destined for this particular network, and let me send that on that particular outgoing interface. If at all I'm not having that destination in my routing table or in RIB, then I go to the control plane where the routing protocols comes in picture, which actually try to understand where that destination is as part of routing process. And actually it gives you the information and forward backs to data plane that, hey, you need to send that packet to that particular interface for that destination. So when we talk about switch, it's all about CAM table, and control plane is talking about how do we build the CAM table, right? So that's control plane and data plane. And now management plane is all about how do you manage the device? How do you telnet and configure the device, or how do you SSH into the device and configure it? So that's about management. But imagine you have got a distributed control plane or decentralized control plane, that every network device has got a control plane. But in the recent years, I mean, SDN is not a very new technology. It's a it's quite old technology where people started working from different university and developing SDN model. One of the article or one of the site which you can refer to understand more on the SDN is Open Daylight. If you Google it, you will understand what is Open Daylight. It is a non-profit organization from Linux Foundation who is working on SDN technology. And they developed the first protocol for SDN called Opal Flow, which talks to the southbound into devices and does the automation. So I'll go through that as well. But what I'm talking about is this is the centralized device, which takes the control plane out of the network devices and centralize into the controller. Now, what is this controller? It is actually a machine which has got operating system and certain application of the software running on it, which actually been utilized to manage all these network devices or tell the devices how to send packet, where to send packet. So control plane responsibility is taken out of the device, centralized on the centralized controller and managing the devices. So this is all about ASDN. As a traditional way or as a generic term, this is SDN, where you have got a centralized controller which is managing the devices, or not only managing the devices, even configuring and telling the devices where to send what packet based on the destination IP address or based on the destination network. So this is SDN. Now, there are, so as I said, from the Open Daylight or Open Networking Foundation, this is the definition which they are talking about. So you guys know, right? You have got a southbound interface and you've got northbound interface. So let me go back to the previous diagram and tell me. So this is SDN controller. And when I'm talking about southbound, is the devices which are underneath the SDN controller. So all these devices are coming under southbound interface. Okay, so this is SBI. When I'm talking about northbound interface, it's actually on the north side, you have got certain applications running. So these are like, for example, you've got application service now, or you've got some APIs running, and you've got a monitoring system like Splunk, which has been utilized to monitor the network. But all the device which is coming on the SDN controller is passed to Splunk or the monitoring system. So this communication is called NBI, so northbound interface. So what we are talking about right now as an open flow protocol, which has been utilized in the open standard, is southbound interface when it is talking about network devices. All right. If any question you guys have, please let me know about ASDN or anything related to intent-based networking. If not, let me go to the another slide. So what are all those controllers? If you talk about Cisco world, you might have heard about Application Policy Infrastructure Controller, APIC from Cisco. This APIC is the centralized controller in data center as a part of ACI solution, which is nothing but SDN controller. NSX from VMware, centralized. Open Daylight, which I was talking about, which has been using OpenFlow as a protocol for southbound interface to communicate with the devices. So it's not something myth as a SDN, or it's not only theory. Practically, it has been deployed across multiple organizations, or they have developed the solution based on this particular concept. So now, since I have set the background about what is IBN and what is SDN, now let's jump on those branches for as a part of SDN. If you consider SDN as a tree, let's jump on one of the branch called SD-Access, and which is specific to Cisco. Why SD-Access? All right. So what are the challenges we are facing as a part of traditional networking? So first challenge is network security challenge. Second is network deployment challenge. And third is wired and wireless network management. And fourth is operational challenge. These are the challenges which normally as a network engineer, as an organization, or as an IT department, they come across into the traditional network deployment. We'll go to in detail about each challenge. So what is network security challenge? So example here, a very generic way. This is your LAN infrastructure where you see all access layer switches, and you've got a core switch, and you got a uplinks which are trunk links. And then you have got multiple VLANs which are configured across access layer switch, and those are passed through trunk link. Now, if you want to talk to from VLAN 30 to VLAN 40, as soon as you create SVIs on the core switches and you have got a reachability via trunk by extending the VLANs, you would able to communicate. But what if you want to have a policy where you are saying VLAN 30 user should not talk to VLAN 40? What you would do is you go on a core switch and you create access policies. You create an access list and you deny that from VLAN 30 to 40. Imagine there's an organization where you have got hundreds of VLANs or thousands of VLANs, and you want to deploy such access policies where you don't want to communicate in between VLANs. And tomorrow your network gets expanded, and then you introduce new VLAN, and then you again implement new access policy. It's overhead, and it is actually tedious job for anyone to work on this kind of implementation. So this is one of the security challenge where you would actually do all manual stuff by introducing access policy. Next is about network deployment challenge. As I said, you got a network and you're extending that, and you got, let's say you have got 5 buildings in your campus, and now you have got another building coming up, and you are building the network there. Now you brought switches for multiple floors, and then you got a core switch, or you extend that to the core switch or distribution, and then you extend that connection to core. How tedious that as well when you're designing the network in a manual way. You would consider a lot of stuff, extending VLANs, extending links, configuring, creating new VLANs, introducing new departments, and all these things. Then nowadays you've got a wireless infrastructure as a primary infrastructure. People run wireless infrastructure I have come across some companies who are using primary, or most of the companies, in fact, are using wireless as a primary infrastructure rather than wired as a primary. So wireless, when we talk about, there is a centralized device, which is controller, who is managing entire wireless infrastructure, which includes access point or user database. Wired, when we are talking about, you have got some other device which is managing centralized way to manage all the network switches. So you have got two different management devices which are being utilized for wired and wireless. So there is no single source of truth which has been utilized for wired as well as wireless. How about operational challenge? So operational challenge, if you go across multiple like white papers or some articles, you would realize that almost like more than 40 to 50% you know uh, time it goes into the operational management, which is like you're managing network, you're maintaining the infrastructure, you're troubleshooting, you have got a resources, you're doing a lot of troubleshooting. For example, there's a, in this particular small network, even you consider this as a small network where you've got two core switches and three access layer switches, and one of the there's a error coming on the switch where it is actually related to spanning tree. How tedious that to search. If you are not well experienced, you would actually you would actually spend a lot of time to just find out where the loop occurs. It is kind of tedious job as a part of operational support or operational management. How do you, so how does this all challenge gets mitigated or overcome into the SDA? So SDA is a solution which actually mitigates all this challenge by combining command line or this by combining all this stuff and into the centralized device called DNAC. So DNAC is Digital Network Architecture Controller, which is a Cisco controller who is going to manage the entire network infrastructure or LAN or campus infrastructure, uh, which includes edge switches, which includes your distribution, which includes your core switches. So it is a single source of truth to address all the concerns. Now, how does it get managed? How do we do automation? What is micro segmentation? What is macro segmentation? All those points or all those topics would be covered in actual training. This is just to give an idea how advantageous or how beneficial for you guys to understand what is SD access and why SD access is important. So, for example, extending VLAN. There is no VLAN concept now when we talk about connectivity between core to the access layer switches. In the SDA world, it is VXLAN. So all the links in between your access layer to the core device, all links are layer 3 links. There is no VLAN concept. So when we talk about previous diagram, for example, this diagram, these all orange links are trunk links. And imagine you're not utilizing all the links. If you have got access layer switch connected to two different core switches, one of the link will be down because of spanning tree and avoid the loop. But in the SDA world, since VXLAN comes in picture, since layer 3 is coming in picture for the connectivity, you are utilizing both the links and you are utilizing routing instead of layer 2 technology. VLANs, is it getting disappeared or is it going? No, it is not, because VLANs will be configured into the switch, but those VLANs are locally significant to that switch only. It is not about extending that VLAN via trunk link because there is no layer 2. Okay, so that is something advantages in SDA world. Automation, network data plane. So monitoring also becomes very easy because you're not relying on SNMP. You've got different protocols to gather the information. Traditionally, we used to gather information via syslog and SNMP, but now something has come in picture over SNMP is telemetry. So there are programmable interface which have been utilized in SD access to collect the information from the devices. And once you collect information from all these protocol on the centralized device called DNAC, you convert that data into the meaningful data and populate the dashboards into the meaningful presentation, which actually helps any administrator to understand what is happening into the network. So there is machine learning, there is artificial intelligence, there is Python programming, there is Linux operating system. All the buzzwords which I was talking about, it's been consolidated into single box, and actually it is managing your entire infrastructure. Now, do you really need to learn all this? I would say no, you need not to learn, but yes, you need to understand how ESD access has been deployed. What is the packet flow? How does client gets IP address? How does device talks to outside world of SD fabric? How does device talks on other side of the edge switch? All these things you need to understand. And more importantly, since you guys are looking forward to have some work coming in your future in your career in SD access world, that's the reason you guys are here. So understanding that, you need to even understand how do we design ESD access. That is the main factor where people are lacking information, and they, though they understood theory about how does packet flow happens, how does traffic flow happens, but they do not know how, where do we start in terms of designing ESD access or migrating your existing infra to the ESD access. I'm going I'm going through all the topics and making you comfortable designing SD access. When I go through the contents, you will understand we are going to deep dive into the SD access design. So if you have a knowledge of routing switching as a basic understanding or CCNA level knowledge, you are good to go ahead for understanding SD access infrastructure. So this is the SD access, which is mitigating all challenges which I was highlighting. Uh, this is a kind of automation, like visibility, what you would get when we are talking about how does automation work. So on the left side, you see devices you need to actually work on box by box, manually provisioning those devices, configuring those devices, bringing into the network. You might end up having some human errors, some connectivity issues, some configuration issues. But on the right side, if you see the framework, if you if you design properly, uh, and if you understand the approach of automation, it would be very, very easy. If you compare the timeline, for designing, it takes hardly 15 minutes. For policy pushing, it takes hardly 5 minutes. And this is not theoretically, it is practically possible, and it has been experienced. Based on my experience, I'm pretty confident these timelines which are practical. Provisioning devices, it takes 5 minutes. So it is kind of half an hour job for you to implement more than say 20, 30 switches. I mean, it is not count based, it is all about how do you design approach and implement that. So this is automation framework on from the helicopter view. Not We are not going very much in detail. We will go in detail about how does automation work, but that is during the actual course. uh, Now, coming back to the certification. Now, why SD access, right? It's not only because you are getting work or you're going to get work, you want to learn. Even if you're studying, for example, you are doing CCI Enterprise or CCI Enterprise Wireless, or you are doing CCNP. These are the topics you would see which are part of ASDA. So 25% of syllabus is actually part of ASD access. So you need to learn ESD access anyway if you're doing any study. This is CCI Enterprise Wireless syllabus, where this particular section into the exam topics are all part of wireless automation assurance on SD access. So yes, even if you're studying about wireless, you need to understand SD access. Now this is about why SD access. I hope you get idea about why SD access and why it is important. Now let me go to another question which you might have in your mind is, why do you need to learn ESD access? You understood the technology, you understood it's all about automation, it is all about uh, getting all the control plane into centralized device and all these things. But why do you need to learn? Okay, let me go to that. If you consider, I mean, this is all based on my experience and based on my study, I'm telling almost all well-recognized training centers or organization has launched Cisco SD Access training. So you consider any well-recognized or Cisco authorized partner trainers, training institutes, they all launch SD Access training. Deploy complex and consistent configuration across hundreds of Cisco switches. So every company is adopting this because of easiness and because of this, saving time and because of avoiding human errors. If you consider top trending trends in 2020 or before that even, Cisco SD-Access and SD-WAN is topmost. Cisco SD-Access architecture is part of most of the Cisco certification, which I was talking before. That you got a syllabus which has got Cisco SD-Access, and you need to study that. So anyway, you have to jump in the Cisco SD-Access, and this is the future of networking. So I'm talking about Cisco SD-Access as a is from the LAN infrastructure. But if you talk about WAN infrastructure, you need to go for SD-WAN. So there is a
Victor,
software.
sir,
Yeah,
can I interrupt you? Can I ask one
yeah,
question
please.
here? Okay,
Sure.
my name is Ashley, and I'm just a CCNA routing and switching guy. So, just wondering, how is it appropriate for me to do SD access? Is it really convenient for me to do SD access? So, can you just let me know?
Uh, it's a good question. So having a basic understanding and starting career into the networking based on the CCNA certification, or you're just studying CCNA, and based on that, do you really need to go for ESD access? My answer is yes, you need to go, because uh, there are a number of factors which I was even talking, and now I'm going to explain. First is demand. So when there is a demand, you would supply it. And if you're not able to supply, somebody will supply. So if your organization is not working on ESD access, but let's say if you're looking for a change in any other organizations, you would come across profile requirement where people are talking about ESDA, people are talking about ESD-WAN, people are talking about having a knowledge on DNA, DNAC. So you pick any of the job profile from Cisco portal or a company who are working into the networking, you would realize that most of the companies are asking Cisco ASD access capabilities, or Cisco DNAC knowledge, or as a understanding about Cisco, SDN framework. So by understanding the scope or the demand, I would say obvious it is the right time for you to invest time here and start studying about Cisco ASD access. I'm not saying you have to grab the knowledge with minimal time, or it is like something you're losing time. No, but today if you are not learning, probably there are people who are already capable enough to work on ESD access, and they may take your opportunity. So why to waste time? It is the right time for you to jump in and start studying Cisco ESD access. And we are here to help you. It is not only giving you a theory knowledge. We are here to help you to understand entire design flow, and along with the real-time use cases, how actual companies have deployed ESD access. Whether it is large scale, small scale, you would experience that along with me. So hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much. And in continuation, the same question, can you tell me about the documents which are available to study this besides your classes?
Yes,
Are the documents available to download in the internet something? Can you
if you
please?
if you just Google Cisco SD access, I would say, or I would recommend rather, uh, you would actually log in into Cisco Live and go through some Cisco SD Access presentations and understand exactly what is Cisco SD Access, because Cisco Live is the main resource where people are learning Cisco SD Access. There are very good presentations given by Cisco engineers or architects uh, about Cisco SD Access. Now, uh, coming back to like what you are looking for, because there might be a situation where you want to learn Cisco SD access, you start Googling and you get ample documents, videos, YouTube, sessions and all, and you're confused what to learn. I would say the approach should be very much streamlined, and I'm here to help you exactly how do you start studying Cisco SD access from the beginning. where to start, what exactly you need to learn before jumping on Cisco SD-Access, and how do you actually understand Cisco SD-Access? How do you design, implement, test? So by end of the course, you would actually get entire picture of Cisco SD-Access. Then it would be easy for you to go back and start your own labbing or study with the help of all the resources on available on the internet.
Okay, thank you
Uh,
very much.
all right. So let me go to the next slide now. So that's about why do you want to learn Cisco SD-Access? Now, why do you want to join with us? Because it is obvious. As I said, there are ample resources. There are many documents, tons of videos available on YouTube about explaining Cisco SD-Access. Why do you want to join with us? Let me answer that as well. So first of all, the course contents. Now, if you go to any document of Cisco website where you see Cisco deployment guide, Cisco design zone, Cisco validated design, Cisco release notes for DNAC, Cisco installation guide, troubleshooting guide, security practices related to SD access, all you go through and you will understand all. Probably you need to read that and you need to understand, but do you really need to understand, let's say, security best practice? Yes, I would say you need to understand, but how do you do all the study with the minimal time? So our course contents are finalized in such a way that it would match your profile, whether you're working into the sales, whether you're working in marketing, whether you're working as a network engineer, whether you're working as a technical support engineer, from the troubleshooting aspect, from design aspect, from sales proposal perspective, these course contents are designed, and you would actually realize that once you go through the actual course. So this is one of the main plus point if you want to join with us. The second is main focus of our course is how do you design SD access. Now, don't you get this document on the internet? Yes, you would get document about designing SD access. But imagine you have joined the call with the customer, and customer or your company is telling, hey, uh, uh, Ashley, you go ahead and design SD access for so and so customer. Now you are jumping on a call with the customer and you don't know what you need to ask as a question and gather the information. That would be confusing, right? Because you know theory, but you don't know where to start. So this is the course where you will understand what questions you need to ask. How do you gather the information for designing SD access? And not only that, once you collect the information from customer, you would actually start working on design. So you call it as high level design document, low level design document, solution design document, whatever you call, you would actually put everything into the design document, finalize it, and then you would submit to the customer. But how do you design that document? Based on theory, yes, you can do, but what if you get stuck somewhere? Yes, there are people who will help. There are many resources from Cisco also will able to help. But why not, go through the practical examples or real-time example of how it is got designed and how it has been implemented, and understand what are all challenges people face during implementation or during finalizing the design draft. And this is the course where you would actually realize that or experience that through going through design document in a practical way or real-time use cases. That's one of the another plus point. And the course material, you're going to get a course material for all these what I have discussed. Not only the presentation which I would go through during the training, but also lab guides. Also, another added advantage is we are going to utilize dcloud and devnet labs, where you would actually go through the labs, whether it is non-SDI assurance or SDI assurance or LAN automation or anything related to VXLAN or Lisp. We will actually explore those labs using dcloud, which is free, and anybody can log in, create account, and access dcloud or devnet lab. And I'm going to teach you how do you create account and how do you utilize that. How do you actually go to the lab guide of dcloud and devnet? So this is something another plus point which you would get. Then, as I said, real-time use cases for SDA, and it is not about SDA only. It is SDA wireless as well as SDA non-SDA wireless. Now, non-SDA wireless is a very new term for non-Cisco people who are actually working on or just started career into the SDA access or going to start. Non-SDA wireless, yes, I'm going in depth during the course. What exactly non-SDA wireless? And then if you compare, I mean, when I was telling about first point that course contents, the training is been launched in almost all well-recognized training organizations. But if you compare the fee structure with them, you would realize the big difference because we are offering this course with a very minimal fees compared to those institutes. And the other added advantage is you are going to get more discount on the future courses which are upcoming, which includes SD-WAN, Cisco wireless deployments with iOS XE platform, and .11 AX technologies. So those are the courses which we will be launching shortly, and you would get a discount on in all those courses because you already built the relation by joining the course with us for SD access. These are the advantages you would get when you want to join the course. Then what are the course contents? So I'm not going through each and every content here, but just to give you a glimpse of what are all contents we are going to cover. So we are going to have SDA introduction. We are going in depth about DNAC architecture, installation steps, and there's a recent version which has been released by Cisco 2.1. So what's new in that? We are going through that as well. We are going through hardware selection when you're designing SD access. How do you select hardware? We are going through ICE as well. We are going through SDA design, SDA wired design. Then we are going through SDA wireless, non-SDA wireless, fabric packet walk. Then we would go through difference between AirOS and iOS XE wireless controllers, because there are many added advantage of iOS XE controller compared to the AirOS. So we would go through that as well. Then we would go through the implementation actual phase where you would implement SD access. Then we would go through migration phases, and then we would jump on DNA center maintenance and troubleshooting activity. So these are the overall course contents. I'm just highlighting the bullets. There are many more details which will be covered against all these chapters, but these are just bullets. Now, when we are going to start the course? Okay, so the schedule is mid of Jan 2020. Sorry, it is not 20, it is 2021. We are going to start the course, and the duration is 2 weeks. Daily 3 to 4 hours we are going to conduct training Monday to Friday. So you can give your feedback about the schedule to Ryan so that he can actually manage the timeline or he can schedule accordingly. But this is the actual schedule as of now. And that's it. As a part of webinar, I just want to make you understand or comfortable what is SD access, where it started, what is IBN, what is SDN in the generic term, and what are all things you need to understand before starting SD access, and why SD access, and why you need to join with us. So I hope this is going to this is helpful, and you would go back and do your homework or do some hunting on internet. As I said, all the training institute which are actually launched this training, compare those training contents with us, understand and take a best decision before deciding where to join. But yes, I would request this is the right time for you to start learning SD access. Wherever you join, but this is the right time. You have any question for me?
Hey Victor, uh, it's
Yeah.
like I heard about, yeah. So is it required to have a Python knowledge or some other programming skill to learn SDS access? Is kind of mandate, or how is it? Because we are normally you see not network engineer will not have any exposure to any programming languages.
Yeah, so it is a good question. Even when I started working on ESD access, there was a question in my mind: do I really need to learn Python? Because I'm not from programming background. I have spent my 13 years of experience only on routing switching by logging into the CLI, seeing the black window day and night, working on configuration and all. now is it the right time for me to start working on Python programming, or is it something I need to learn? I would say for SD-Access, no, it is not required. But again, it is personal interest. So for example, when I say personal interest, there are people who started their career into the networking by uh, getting CCNA certification, but they have very solid background about programming, and they want to move onto the Python programming side and relate that work with the networking field. Yes, you probably would jump on Python programming, but guys who are not interested in Python programming, this is not mandatory for you to learn SD-Access.
Okay, thank you. And actually, I'm pure routing, switching, and wireless guy actually. So I don't have any exposure to security. Uh,
Mhm.
as a part of solution, I seen this ICE is a part of SDXS solution. So do we need to learn about ICE as well?
As a complete solution of ESD-Access, that it has got many components. Purposely, I have not put the topology of ESD-Access or architecture because people get confused normally by seeing that diagram and start comparing with ACI solution, SD-WAN solution, SDN as a generic way. But what I would say is, uh, as a complete solution, ICE plays a vital role in ESD-Access solution, and you are going to learn ICE as well as a part of ESD-Access.
So that is the part of coursework actually. So you'll cover that all
Yes,
basics of ICE.
it is part of our course content.
Okay. Mhm.
Any further question, guys? You can ask any question to me, or if you have if you want to park some questions and you want to take it offline, you can always contact me through Rian and reach out to me. I'm open to discuss with you over phone, or you can drop an email to me. I'm here to help you out and to make you understand how important SD-Access is and how do you start your journey. All right, any further question?
Uh, how it will help if I do this course? How it will help me to clear CCIE wireless?
CCI wireless, yes, it would help because as I was telling in the certification uh, topics, right? Let me go back and tell you certification topics. So if you see here, this is the these are the topics as a part of CCI Enterprise Wireless, where you would
Mhm.
see Cisco DNS Center Assurance SD Access is a part of the syllabus. So this probably would just cover wireless in CCI wireless, but if you learn Cisco SD Access via this training, you're not only learning wireless, you're learning entire architecture, which includes wired, security, and wireless as well.
Okay, so it means you will
Okay,
cover all. Uh, so my understanding is you are going to cover everything. I means you are going to cover the topic that is part of CCI wireless or CCI enterprise, right? Or do I
definitely,
need
yes. And not only
additional?
that,
Mhm. Yeah.
not only
I was
that, like, you're going to learn Cisco ESD Access Wireless only. Before starting ESD Access Wireless, we will cover a basic of wireless infrastructure in Cisco solution, which includes AirOS solution. When I say AirOS, it's the controllers like 8500, 5500 controllers, which have been deployed along with LWAP or CAPWAP access points, and the recently introduced controller, which is iOS XE based 9800 platform. So we will cover that before jumping on ASD Access Wireless. So it would be easy for you guys to understand ASD Access Wireless once we cover basic of wireless. Okay.
and okay. And after this training, say for example, if I need any assistant, is it possible for you to help us for any project related query, maybe?
Yes, so that is what I was telling on the last slide, that the story is not ending here just by joining this course and finishing the syllabus, and then you start your actual working on ESD access. This is the group which we will form, and we would actually have uh, entire group helping each other. It is not only me as a trainer going to help you guys. You would actually form a group and help each other during your actual work, like implementation, design, and that way you would actually expand your network or extend your network for ESD access learning, and that would be really easy for you people to understand who is working on what, and how, what kind of queries are coming from customer, and how people are able to tackle that work. So it's a, let's utilize social networking sites or the softwares which have been used to connect together and learn new technologies. That's my main agenda, even in my career, where I started doing that, and I would recommend you also need to do that. That way you would learn fast.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any further question, guys?
Yes, sir. In the same regards, would like to
Mhm.
understand with respect to the lab practices, will I be able to do hands-on?
Uh, it's a good question. So if you see most of the training organizations, which are Cisco authorized training partners, they have got full-fledged lab, and you would get a good exposure on the lab side there. But if you consider their, the schedule, it's a kind of fast-track boot camp, like 2 days or 3 days boot camp, or max 5 days boot camp, where you would go through the entire syllabus along with lab. You would not get a chance practically, because I experienced that when I started my career into the SD access. That won't be sufficient for you. Even though there is a lab access, you won't learn much on that. Now, that's not something I'm trying to tell that they are not good. They are pretty good covering all this. But what I'm saying is, they have full-fledged lab, but you're not able to utilize. Here, we do not have lab full-fledged. What we are going to do, we are not giving only theory knowledge, or we are not going to tell you real-time use cases theoretically. We are going to utilize dcloud and devnet labs. When I say dcloud and devnet lab, those are free labs which are hosted on the internet by Cisco, which anybody can access. So are we going to cover all the labs through dcloud and devnet? No, it is not. Whatever chapter or the topics which are possible to cover through dcloud, we are going to cover that. And we have finalized that which are all chapters or the topics which will be covered with the help of dcloud, which we will share with you shortly. But yes, wherever it is possible, we'll use those labs. Otherwise, we do not have full-fledged in-house lab, but we are in future working on that. Today, we are going to utilize dcloud and devnet labs.
Okay, thank you. I have one more apprehension.
Mhm.
After completing SDA course labs hands-on, do I need to study SD-WAN as well?
Yes, you need to, because those two technologies are different, or the use cases are different rather. If you consider SD access, it is a LAN infrastructure or the campus infrastructure solution. And if you talk about SD-WAN, it is a WAN infrastructure solution. But the concept remains same. So if you go through Cisco SD access and understand exactly how Cisco SD access works, it would be very, very easy for you to learn SD-WAN. Or rather, I would say any other you take ACI, you take SD-WAN, you take SD access. Those all are on ESDN platform or ESDN technology. So if you learn ESD access, it would be easy for you to learn ESD-WAN later.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much.
All right. So if you have any question, you can ask. Otherwise, I think we have crossed the time. So if there is no other question, or if you have further question, you can ask offline by sending email or calling Rayan. taking me on conference, or you taking my number through Rian, and we can discuss, and we can try to clarify all the queries whatever you have. You guys are welcome. I hope you would join a course soon in the mid of Jan, and I hope to see you there. Before closing the call, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and stay safe and keep learning, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the wonderful session.